People know there have been many famous faces up and down this famous street in London. That is 10 Downing Street, the home of the British Prime Minister for many decades now. And when you're standing here, on a daily basis, chums, you do sort of think of all the history that's gone on. And when it's quiet like today, it's hard to imagine just how much history has gone through that door. Heads of state, Queen Elizabeth, Prince Philip, Winston Churchill, all of those prime ministers, good and bad, who came in with good intentions, some people might say, but left under a cloud. And there's been many that's done that. Of course, famous faces have created a lot of buzz around this particular street. I remember way back in the 90s when it was, Cool Britannia, do you remember that? With, of course, the likes of Noel Gallagher and his partner and wife, Meg Matthews, heading the fact with Tony Blair that this was the coolest place in the world to be. Of course, that was nothing new. Way back in the 1960s, the Hollywood superstar Joan Crawford came here to have afternoon tea with the Prime Minister's wife, who was then Harold Wilson. And it was interesting, because as I told you in a previous video, he was very keen to appear in Joan's latest film, which was being filmed out at Pinewood at the time. Now, Joan Crawford never wanted to miss an opportunity to promote herself, and more importantly, what she was doing like her brand for Pepsi Cola. She made sure that the world's media was there to capture every moment, said it was a delightful afternoon and she couldn't quite believe it, etc. Joan knew the value of publicity. That's for sure. Now, what was interesting was, and I've mentioned this before, it's interesting about exactly how showbiz and politics often tend to mix into one. And this is because many of them, once they get a break inside the world of, politics, suddenly like the idea of cameras and lights and camera and action. It's as simple as that. I've seen it over many years inside my studio. They come in at first being very shy and all that sort of stuff, but as it develops, they're all talking about getting their own show once their political careers go over. And if you don't believe me, all you have to do is look at the television schedules to see there are many politicians now that are very busy promoting themselves on, of course, television. Many heading their own shows on a nightly basis to dwindling audiences, but for them, it doesn't matter. There's a camera still pointing on them. A fun story, though, that was told to me by none other than a good chum of mine, the late and wonderful actor Sir Roger Moore. Well, let me share this with you. Morning, nice to see you, chums. Thank you so much for joining me today. And as ever, welcome one and all brand new subscribers. Lovely to have your company. Roger Moore, what a guy, right? And really, to many people, a wonderful James Bond. Tony Curtis, another guy that I got to know very well. And for my era, I remember not the first time it was showed, but when they repeated it again a few years later, the Persuaded, along with that very clever, twangy guitar intro, was the sort of program that we all wanted to be involved with, simply because it was gorgeous, it was high living, and it was the 70s throughout, wasn't it? Now, did you know that when the Persuaders came to Downing Street to film, none other than the Prime Minister at the time, the never camera shy Harold Wilson, was very keen to make an appearance, because he realised that by rubbing shoulders with two genuine Hollywood superstars, i.e. Tony Curtis and Roger Moore, this would do his power a lot of good. Now, Harold, as I said, wasn't too shy in making sure he got pictured with the relevant people. The aforementioned Joan Crawford was another one, and of course he welcomed the Beatles and made sure that he got pictured with the Beatles to be sure that the younger generation knew who he was. Harold was probably a little bit ahead of his time, because it's like, politicians today wanting to get huge TikTok followings. You get the picture. Moving forward, what happened was Lord Lou Grade, who made that particular program to great success, well, they couldn't squeeze it in the first time around, but then sadly, the second series never happened, even though Harold was still up for it. The reason being apparently that it became too costly, and truthfully, as Tony Curtis pointed out to me, he decided to put up his fee because he felt he was worth more, he was the bigger Hollywood star, and not only that, Lord Lou Grade had to buy him a house in Mayfair on top of it. You see how these Hollywood stars negotiate. So consequently, Harold Wilson, the then British Prime Minister, lost the opportunity once again to appear alongside some Hollywood stars. But it didn't stop him. Even to the very end, he was looking for opportunities to present himself to a younger, brighter, fresher audience. Now, when you think about it, they say history repeats itself. And when you look at the politicians today, they're all ready, aren't they, to cozy up to the pop star of the moment. And as you can see, truly, nothing's changed. Neil Sean, 10 Downing Street, London.